Alright, so this is the first video in what I'm hoping is going to be a video series where we go around to different gardens in the Flagstaff area and just see what those gardeners are doing. So I'm not saying that any given strategy is the best strategy or the strategy that you should use, but it's just going to show what's working for different people. So here we go.
Woo!
Alright, so this is my mother.
Hello.
And we're going to do a series on gardening in Flagstaff. So you want to say kind of like where you guys are and what the climate's like compared to in town?
We're east of Flagstaff, about 10 miles, a couple hundred feet lower, so it's cooler. We're in the junipers. And so it's warmer here, so we can start a little bit earlier, but we still do get those spring frosts that are killing frosts.
Yeah, how late was the latest frost you guys got this year?
It was, I think, about June 1st, I think.
Okay.
And we had already started, and it killed everything we had.
Yeah. Alright, great. Cool. So do you want to talk about what you're growing and what you usually grow, like varieties of things?
Yeah, we have some melons here, which we got from you, and this is our first year doing those melons. We have the first two are, I don't know what.
Golden Jenny melons?
Golden Jenny melons, and they're doing very well. And the third one over there is,
Armenian cucumbers?
thank you, Armenian cucumbers. And we grow those every year, and they just do really well. And of course we have zucchini and yellow squash.
Do you get a particular variety of zucchini and yellow squash?
Just either crookneck or just a straight neck yellow squash.
Mm-hmm.
And just a regular old zucchini squash, whichever kind looks pretty good, and they do very well.
Mm-hmm. And you guys started from seed almost every
Yes.
year, right?
Yes,
Where
we
you
started
grow
from
yourself.
seed. We started all of these from seed.
Nice, nice.
I got the plants from you for the melons, the Jenny melons. The last one is a volunteer from last year's compost bin, and we have several of those around in the garden. And then we have celebrity tomatoes, and this is our first year growing celebrities, and they're doing really well. So we have some red ones underneath down there at the bottom. Thank goodness they come up red, or we'd never find them. And this is our carrot crop over here. And we've been very successful with our carrots the last few years, because when you read on the label and it says just put them on the surface and call it good, no. You put a little bit of dirt on top of them, pat them down. And then beets, of course. These are red beets. We've tried different varieties, and these always do well. They're Detroit Reds.
Nice.
And Blue Lake bush beans. And they're not doing that great here. I'm not sure why. We've replanted a few times.
Yeah, you were thinking it was maybe bad seed.
Bad seed, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's good to see that, like, we all run up against things, because usually you have beautiful bean crops.
Yeah, usually our bean crop is really good.
Yeah.
And we have a couple of butternut squash that our neighbor gave us, and they're hanging in there. And some cherry tomatoes that I got from you, and they're doing very well.
Nice.
The tomatoes themselves are going nuts. We have a lot of tomatoes, which is great. So.
Could you talk a little bit about, like, how you guys water and how you do your trenches and things?
Okay. My husband's dad was a farmer, and so he's big into farming still. What we do is we build these trenches. We use the pipe that's over there against the wall to lay them out, and we do a trench on either side so that we put the water down at the bottom, and it runs all the way. You have to make sure you make sure it's level. That's really important, so the water flows properly. And it just flows up, and it flows all the way around, and it waters the plants from both sides.
Okay.
It's kind of heavy in water, but we don't have to water very often. We water anywhere from every 2 to 4 days, depending on the weather. And this year we started putting a little mountain in the middle, because before we were allowing the water to roll over and get it wet all the way. But now
Kind of a peak in the middle.
we have this little mountain in the middle, So it stops the water and it keeps it in the trenches on either side. And we've been very successful with that. When we do the tomatoes, we do the same with them as far as the trenches on the side, but we break the trenches in between each plant.
So it runs.
So it stays in and it runs in between, and it really gets quite a bit of water. And we do the same with the squash. So that works out really well. And we do not use wall of waters. We use buckets, just straight regular buckets. Take the bottoms out of them, cut the bottoms off, and we put those on there and protect them from the wind. And it gives it some protection from the cold. If it gets really, it's going to get cold, we'll just put a piece of wood on top with a block on it, and it'll, keep it pretty warm as long as you don't take it off too soon in the morning. I did that one time. Frosted my plants right up.
Yeah, and I'm sure people could, you could theoretically insulate your buckets better if you wanted to.
You could put towels around them or things like that. Our neighbors use wall of waters, but they're really expensive, and
yeah, they don't seem to last terribly long.
no, and these buckets work great. We use them year after year. We've loaned them to friends. We've used them forever. And you just cut the bottom out of a 3 to 5 gallon bucket and just stick it over your plants. It works for everything. Tomatoes, we use it on our squash until it gets big enough and warm enough and not so windy. It really protects them from the wind. You just kind of screw them down in there when the soil is wet, and it works great. So, and then of course you can see that once the plants get tall, this is the little trellis system. When Kenny's dad used to use bamboo, and we just use PVC, and we put it on every year, and we take it down every year, and so we just reuse it, just wire it up, and it supports the plants as they grow.
And you guys always select determinate varieties so that you can do that without them being too big.
Yes, indeterminate ones get a little bit too tall.
Yeah.
They get a little crazy, but that's our garden.
I did want to ask, so for fertilizing, what do you guys do with your plants?
We use blood meal and on everything, and put it in there. When we seed it, and when we put our plants in. If we get plants, we put it down in the hole and put them in there, and then every once in a while we just throw a little bit more blood meal on. The tomatoes, we do also put the calcium nitrate on there to keep them from getting the blossom end rot. And that's it. Now once we get done with this year, we'll till it up, and we're going to probably put a little bit more manure in here this year and till it up again. And we'll put compost in it in the spring and till it up when it's still kind of cold, because it kills the insects. There might be some little worms, larvae of something in the soil, and it'll help kill it. Mm-hmm. And then get it all tilled up. And every year we do rotate our crops around. So usually we'll move things so that we can keep the nitrogen levels up. But we do tend to try to put our melons and cucumbers and things to places where they can run out. But like these guys here, those are volunteers out of our compost bin. We have no idea what they are. They might be honeydews, maybe.
Maybe you'll find it.
We don't know for sure, but we did get a couple of tomatoes. That little tomato there's the 2 cherry tomatoes on the right there, and then that other one is a volunteer that we transplanted. It's kind of fun to see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's our garden.
Alrighty.